Thinking about launching a podcast but overwhelmed by all the moving parts? At TurnKey Podcast Productions, we take the hassle out of podcasting so you can focus on the talk, not the tech. From concept to launch, guest booking to post-production, we handle everything. Need a strategy to grow your show and turn guests into clients? Yep, we do that too. DIY or done for you, we've got the solution that fits. Whether you're just getting started or ready to scale, TurnKey is your behind-the-scenes podcast team. TurnKey Podcast Productions. Your voice, your message, fully produced. Learn more at turnkeypodcast.com/contact. That's turnkeypodcast.com/contact. Hey, it's Doug from The Nice Guys. Now, we are on vacation this week, but we didn't want to leave you empty-handed. So here's a classic rewind episode of The Nice Guys on Business podcast. Get set. Here we go.
They actually have a plan for today's Nice Guys on Business podcast. You don't want to miss it.
I explain what is heat, what is smoke, what is protein, what is fat, what are carbohydrates, what happens when heat hits meat, what is the process, what is the difference between infrared energy and conduction energy and convection energy, because you've got all three on the grill.
Right.
And if you know where they are and how to use them, then you can become a better cook. And so we talk about thermometers, and we talk about different types of grills and smokers. And so there's a lot of geeky stuff in there, but it's not too far off the deep end. It's not a science class per se, but it really informs you about what's going on and how to manage things and how to control things.
What are we going to do today? Same thing we do every day, Pinky. Try to take over the world. Oh, and listen to the Nice Guys on Business podcast, of course. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by TurnKey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
All right, Nice Guy community. Today's guest has smoke, science, and a serious sense of flavor. Meathead is one of only 40 living barbecue Hall of Famers. Yeah, that's a real thing. And the brains and taste buds behind AmazingRibs.com, the biggest and most beloved barbecue and grilling site on the planet. His first book, Meathead, The Science of Great Barbecue and Grilling, hit the New York Times bestseller list, and he was crowned one of the 100 best cookbooks of all time. His brand new book, The Meathead Method, just dropped, noted as the only book on outdoor cookery you'll ever need. Now, that's pretty cool. He's a culinary mythbuster, a science geek with a grill, and today he's bringing the heat to the Nice Guys on Business. Meathead, I'm excited to chat with you here. I don't know if I've ever had anyone. I've never had like Madonna or Gandhi, but I've got Meathead on the show. Meathead, welcome to the Nice Guys.
Well, I like to tell people I have just one name. I'm like Madonna, only more facial hair.
I get it.
And you, very nice of you to read that quote, the only book on outdoor cookery you'll ever need. You forgot to mention that Alton Brown said that. Now, I don't know if he means anything to you, but in the culinary world, Alton Brown is a walking, living god. And so for Alton to call my book the only book on outdoor cookery you'll ever need is quite an honor.
Well, I appreciate you correcting me. I'll let my mom know because she's the one that wrote the freaking intro. Okay, so let her know.
You know, my mom died just recently, but up until then, she was my copy editor. She was an old English teacher, and she was breathing down my neck, and she was merciless.
Well, you grew up with red pen then in your life, I'm sure.
You will never see me without this in my pocket.
And for Nice Guys that are listening to this, which is on audio only, and which is everybody, because we're not doing a video other than some of the promo, unless we're showing that you remember as you were in elementary school, Nice Guy community, that pen that had the multiple tops that you could press down on the bottom.
Right, it's a big pen. Nice. It's a big 4-color pen, and you use red for editing, black for marginal notes, green for comments to the other members of the team, blue. I haven't found a use for the blue yet, but
nice,
yeah.
Nice. So let's start here. You know, I really only recently truly discovered the art of barbecuing or cooking outside. I've had a grill my entire adult life. But a neighbor of mine who is an 80-year-old neighbor, she brought over these baby back ribs probably about maybe 3 or 4 months ago, maybe last, I don't even remember exactly, but it seemed like it was just yesterday. And I bit into these baby back ribs and they melted off the bone. And I said, "Where did you buy these?" And she said, "Buy them. I made them." I'm like, "How do you make these ribs, pardon my expression, so fucking good?" And she said, "I have a Traeger smoker and it's a pellet smoker and I put it and I forget it and that is about it." And I said, "I got to get myself a pellet smoker." So that's where my fascination came. Then when Phil Fernaro mentioned to me that you were recently on his show, I'm like, "I've heard about him, but I don't know him. I got to have him on the show too." So I'm excited to chat with you. All of that being said, how the hell did you get involved in the barbecue, smoking, grilling world to begin with?
Well, I mean, almost all of us learned barbecue and grill from our dads. It still seems to be heavily male dominated.
Yep, yep.
We have a membership portion of our website, amazingribs.com, called the Pitmaster Club, which is 90% male. We've done everything we can to draw women in, but in any case, my dad was an avid griller, and he learned from his dad. And when I was about 10 years old, I started taking an interest in it. I'd hang around the grill out back with him.
Hmm.
He might have let me have a sip of beer every now and then, which might have
Right?
piqued my interest. And he was really good. His specialties were flank steak and beef ribs,
Yeah, of course.
and I fell in love with the smell and the of grilling food and the taste. And when I went off to college, I lived in an apartment that had one. It had one of those cast aluminum grills out back you see in the
Yeah,
parks.
yeah.
And my roommates made me cook all the time. In fact, I even scheduled my classes so I could watch Julia Child in the morning.
Wow, wow. So it sounds like you're a griller turned businessman rather than a businessman turned griller. It sounds like your passion started in the preparation and the cooking side of it, and you just happened to make a business out of it because it's great to be able to make money and a passion that really drives you. Is that fair?
Oh, that's something else I learned from my dad. Dad said, figure out what you love to do and make your living at it. Um, and of course, that led directly to the fact that I worked in liquor stores all through college and for many years after. I was the wine critic of the Washington Post and the Chicago Tribune for many
Heard
years.
that
So
about you.
I'm into both food and drink,
All right. So
solid
before
and liquid.
before you go on, so if you're grilling ribs or you're smoking ribs or a good brisket, do you prefer a Cabernet or are you going to go with something a little bit more like a Grenache or do you stay lighter with a Pinot Noir or
Well,
what do you?
in the barbecue world, the fallback is beer.
True.
I think the secret in matching food and drink, food and wine, or drink cocktails, whatever, is what's the dominant flavor. If you're
Mm.
doing ribs and you got a really rich, sweet Kansas City style barbecue sauce like Sweet Baby Ray's or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah, of course.
then you want to match up with that. I often suggest going for something like an Asti Spumante, which is a sweet,
Nice.
slightly sweet white wine, but the sweetness balances against the sweet sauce,
So I'm gonna
which is
I'm
the
gonna
dominant flavor.
I'm gonna go if I'm going dry rub, I'm going with an old fashioned because it really just is a nice smoky flavor on both. An old fashioned made with rye as
There you
opposed to
go.
bourbon.
There
I
you go.
love
Yeah,
that
rye has
idea.
really come on to it, coming into its own in the past few years.
I'm so excited to chat with you. I don't know now that whether I talk wine, liquor, or barbecue. Where do you want to start, man? Because this is a fun conversation already.
Well, you tend to be business oriented, and we have a really interesting business story. Now,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, food and drink were always of my interest, but I've always had an interest in business, and I took business classes in college, and the website, which was the genesis of all this, began in 2005.
Hmm.
One of my neighbors was a butcher, and he was bragging about his ribs, and I was very proud of my ribs, and we were, a couple of a couple of chest thumping guys here, okay,
Yep.
we're going to have a throwdown, and our wives were the judges, and they very wisely called it a draw. But I
Smart.
had, back in 2005, I needed to figure out if there was a way to do ribs better than the way I was doing it. So I went out on the internet. Now this is, I think this is pre-Google, um,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
uh, there weren't any books on barbecue and grilling. It was really, the barbecue boom that we're in now hadn't begun yet. I said, well, heck, I was a journalism major in college. I did quite a bit of writing and photography, and I was pretty good at them. And so I decided let's build a website about it.
Nice,
And
nice.
I started with one recipe, amazing ribs, and it is now 2,000 free pages of recipes, barbecue, grilling, smoking, curing, you name it, it's all there. And side dishes, and then there's product reviews. We've got a guy who works full time testing grills and smokers. And
Nice.
no, we're not interviewing for help or
I was gonna say, wait a minute. I went in for this position. Can
that's
I?
his
I want to be
full-time
your.
job. We got another guy who tests thermometers. It's a really interesting website, and from the business standpoint, this is something that's really interesting. It was a pretty standard free website. I did all the coding and built it myself, and wrote almost all the articles and everything myself. But back in 2004, I think it was, no, 2014, sorry, 2004
Okay.
and 5 is when we launched the website.
Yep. Yep.
2014, we rolled out a membership portion, and we didn't put a paywall on the website because we wanted to share all this information.
Right.
I wanted to educate. So we created a section of the website that is a membership portion, and it's like the old, what we used to call a message board.
Mm-hmm.
It's interactive.
Right.
Websites are a broadcast medium,
Right. Right.
like we're doing right now. Your audience is listening, but they can't chime in. And a website that people can drop in, they can ask questions in the comment section and stuff, but it's really not a two-way conversation. But the old message boards were two-way conversations. So we
Mm-hmm.
created what we call the Pitmaster Club, which we charge an annual fee, $35 a year,
Sounds
and
reasonable.
and we have 13,000 paid members right now.
Wow. Do the math, nice guy community.
Well, and this was a pioneering thing back in 2014. People weren't charging for information on the internet back in those days. I don't know when the New York Times started charging, but it was around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Now more and more sites are doing a membership side, but we were, as near as I can tell, the pioneer, if not one of the pioneers.
Great business model. I want to go back to one of the things that you had as your origin story, and it was that one recipe for ribs. And I think about, and we can argue this point or we can agree on this point. I'm not really sure. We'll figure it out as we have the conversation here. Low and slow. I was always told that the best way to have the most tender ribs is to do them low and slow. And if you do it on a smoker and you do it at 250 or 275 or maybe even 225 if you want to keep it as a longer cook, that is a true way for the most tender ribs. But I've seen plenty of people go to the store, buy ribs, throw them on the grill, whatever, 400, 500 degrees, and have them done in a couple of hours. And those are just as good, but maybe not quite as tender. Now, what's your perspective on doing ribs?
Well, I'm kind of known as a geek.
All right. I know
And
you're
the
a science
website,
guy. You're a science guy.
well, the first book is Meathead, the Science of Great Barbecue and Grilling. And we definitely, so the answer to that question is real simple. Muscle fibers contract when subjected to heat.
Mm-hmm.
And the hotter it is, the more they contract. When they contract, they squeeze out moisture.
Mm-hmm.
So the lower temperature you cook at, the more likely it's to be tender and juicy. So for most smoking recipes, we standardize at 225 Fahrenheit.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we standardize is that It's a little tricky sometimes to nail the temperature and hold the temperature in rain, in snow, in
Right.
heat. Now, these you mentioned Traeger and you mentioned pellet smokers. Traeger is one of the pellet smokers that is it's a relatively new
Hmm.
subcategory of smoking. And by the way, they're smokers, they're not grills. We can
Right.
talk more about that in a little bit. But Traegers are automated, they're thermostat controlled.
Right.
So
Right.
it's a lot easier to hold temp. But
Totally.
back when we first launched, there were no
No,
thermostat cookers.
you go out there with the blanket and you'd put your coal and you'd bring it you open it up and close the whatever it is a little bit so you can get whatever. I it's
Yeah,
a
well,
whole
you
different
had to. You have
active.
essentially two fuels. Technically, you can't count oxygen as a fuel, but I do. You
Right.
have oxygen and charcoal or wood, and you have to come to the proper balance of the two to get the right temperature and the right flavor, and that's part of the artistry or the craftsmanship of proper grilling and smoking.
Well, I do love a low and slow cook, but it I do the 3-2-1 method, 3 hours uncovered, 2 hours covered in one and
Don't
a
do that anymore.
okay, well, you're going to tell me what I should be doing differently. I thought I finally got it down. What do I need to
No.
do differently?
2 hours. All right. 3-2-1 method is a technique people have been talking about for years for cooking ribs, where you cook them, let's say at 225 or 250 for 3 hours with smoke.
Right.
And you cook them indirect. You don't put them over flame
Correct.
or glowing coals. You put them indirect, convection airflow warms them gently so they don't shrink and contract and squeeze out the juices. And you do it for 3 hours. Then they wrap them in aluminum foil. Some people use butcher paper
Yeah, I use the paper.
for 2 hours, and essentially that braises them. The liquid comes out, and you braise them, and then you take them back out for an hour, and that can crisp up the bark. 2 hours in foil is way too long. Way too long.
All right. All
You
right.
end
Tell
up
me.
with mush. You end up with mushy meat.
Yeah, you
Um,
can. I got it. I got it. So tell me. So tell me what's the new method that I'm going to employ from
Well,
here
just
on out.
1 hour in foil is all you need.
Got it. Okay.
So go 3 or 4 hours, then 1 hour in foil, then 1 hour out.
Okay.
And most of the time, I mean, I cook ribs all the time, and a lot of time wrapping it in foil is an optional process. You
Right.
don't need to do it. You can just do it 4, 5, 6. Baby backs take if you don't wrap them, baby backs will take 3 to 4 hours. Spare ribs 5 to 6 hours, and you don't have to wrap them. They come out fantastic. If you wrap them, they do get a little more tender. But
The thing that really intimidates me is the larger cuts of meat. You take a brisket, for example, you know, you have $150 invested in this slab of beef and you throw it on your smoker or your grill, in my case, the smoker. And I'm just always afraid I'm going to do something wrong. You know, you have the thinner portions, you have the thicker portions, and I'm going to overcook the thinner portion. I'm going to undercook the thicker portion. How the hell do I get this straight, meathead? Fix me.
well, it's easy. First of all, go to AmazingRibs.com and read everything I've written about brisket, and I'll walk you through it and hold your hand.
Okay.
But your issue about thin portions and thick portions, brisket is the pectoral muscles of the steer, and cattle don't have collarbones.
Hmm.
So the head, the neck, the shoulders, the upper half of the body are all borne by these chest muscles. That's they're very vital, and they bear a lot of weight. So it's a very tough muscle. So it has to be cooked low and slow. It has to take a long time because there's a lot of connective tissue in there
Hmm.
that you need to soften, and it breaks down and softens with long, low and slow cooks, and it gets very tender. And some of these connective tissues get gelatinous. And a properly cooked beef brisket, if you pick it up and shake it, it kind of goes wubba wubba wubba.
Hmm.
And but the secret, one of the ways around the problem that you're struggling with is there's the shape of the brisket is there's a big fat end and then it tapers to a
Right.
skinny end.
Right.
And the reason there is there's two muscles that overlap. And one muscle is called the flat muscle, and the other muscle is called the point. And if you separate the two muscles, and this is what most of the top competition cooks are doing now, and it's very easy. There's just a very thick fat layer in between them. You
Right.
can do it with your bare hands, or you can do it with a knife, but just separate the two muscles and cook them side by side. The flat muscle now is very uniform in flatness and
Mm.
thickness. The point is a little odd shape, but it has more fat, and it's the juicier portion. So if you separate them, then you overcome some of this problem of having. But this goes back to the old days. Perhaps your audience has heard of what we call burnt ends. When people cooked a brisket whole, it's called a packer brisket. When they cooked it whole,
Hmm.
the skinny ends cooked faster and were often burnt slightly. And that people would cut those off, chop them up, and serve them separately, and they became a delicacy. The great author Calvin Trillin once wrote about the fabulous burnt ends at Arthur Bryant's restaurant in Kansas City. Um, uh, but burnt ends are really special now, but they're not made by cutting off the burnt ends. Nobody wants to burn any of the ends of their brisket.
What's your feeling? And let's talk about grilling for a second. What's your feeling about cooking with fat on the meat that you're putting on the grill? I've seen some people cut it down as far as they can, and I've seen some people throw it on the grill fat side down to get a good flame under that piece of meat. What's your feeling?
Meat is 75% water. Fat is oil.
Hmm.
Oil and water don't mix.
Right.
The fat cap that sits on top of a brisket, or if you get a pork loin or something, there's often a layer of fat.
Hmm.
It cannot, under any circumstances, on this planet or any other, penetrate into the meat because
Hmm.
oil and water don't mix. It can melt, it'll drip off, and it can cause flare ups.
Hmm.
If you have a smoker where the flame is or the heat is directly below, like on a Weber Smoky Mountain, some people put the fatty side down to act like a heat shield.
Hmm.
But no, I mean, and the other thing is on a brisket, for example, the fat can be up to an inch thick in some
Right.
places. Okay, so you're going to get your brisket. You're going to sprinkle a really nice spice rub on top of everything, and then you put it on the smoker, and 12 hours later, and it can take 12 to 14
Right.
or more.
Right.
12 hours later, it's ready to go, and you cut it into slices and serve it to your guests, and they look at that thick layer of fat on the top of it, and what do? They cut it off.
Right.
They're not going
Exactly.
to eat a half inch of fat.
Right.
Well, there go all your spices. Get rid of it.
I got it. So before you even start the process, you're taking the fat
Get rid of
off of that
almost all
brisket.
the fat. Trim it down almost to bare meat.
Hmm.
It is not going to penetrate. Now, we all know fat is flavor, but it's the fat that's within the meat.
Hmm.
It's
Okay.
in between the muscle fibers that is where all the flavor comes from. It's what we call marbling. You know about that in a steak.
Of course.
So the fat in between the muscle fibers is what you want, but the fat on top is just wasted.
All right. Let's talk about it.
Now, one other
Yeah.
thing:
Yeah. Yeah.
trim it, freeze it, save it, because the next time you do burgers, you might want to mix some of that into your burger mix.
Oh, good plan. That is a great plan. I never thought about doing that. Good idea. I'm sure
Well, we
that's
can talk about that because there's some really interesting tricks to doing great burgers.
tell me about okay, so buying ribs at the store, there's always a very, very thin layer of I think it's called silver skin. Is that what it's called? That
It,
you
it's just we normally it's called the membrane.
me
It's the
membrane.
pleura.
Right.
It's the
So
pleura.
now
We have it too. Think about your ribs. Your ribs protect your vital muscles. Your heart, your lung, your liver, your stomach are all inside your rib cage. And on the underside of those ribs, there is a membrane. You have it also, your pleura. You've heard of pleurisy. It's a disease of the pleura. That pleura is a thick membrane on the underside of the ribs, And it can get very chewy. It can be rubbery, depending on if you do the 3-2-1 method. It can get very rubbery.
Right.
So it's generally a good idea to peel it off.
I do. I do. I take it off every. Some stores sell it with it's still on there, and some like if I go to Trader Joe's, I don't believe that the membrane is on the ribs. I even chat GPT'd it. I'm like, hey, does Trader Joe's do something to their ribs? Yes, they remove the membrane from
I
the
wasn't
ribs.
aware of that. I do shop at Trader Joe's occasionally. I'm particularly fond of the wasabi peas.
Yeah.
But I wasn't aware that they were not most stores do not remove the membrane. It's tricky to remove it. It's probably time consuming, and that would make it more
It
expensive.
it is a little time consuming to do it. I tend to dry off the underside of the ribs, take a paper towel and put that between my finger and the membrane, and oftentimes
Hmm.
it's a lot easier
Yeah,
to get that
yeah.
off that way. Tell me about the difference between, and I'm sure you've had experience with this, the difference between going to, let's say, the butcher counter as opposed to going to the case that has it already packaged. Is it the same meats? Is it oftentimes different meats, higher quality at the counter as opposed to the refrigerated section? Any idea, any thoughts about that?
It really varies. It really varies. You know, every grocery store used to have a real butcher. That's not true now. They have a lot of them have what we call meat cutters, but they're not trained in butchery necessarily. Most of the meat cutting and the butchery is done at the slaughterhouse or at a meat processor. But look at I value my butcher more than I do my stockbroker. I get to know your butcher. I walk in and the butcher will often see me and say, "Hey, we just got in some USDA choice ribeyes,
Right.
but boy, they're so heavily marbled, they're almost prime. You want some? Yes."
Okay. Okay.
You get to know your butcher. In fact, I what I will do, and I recommend you might try this is as you get to, and by the way, a lot of them are women now. You get to know the head butcher. They're there. They get there early in the morning because that's when deliveries come in, and they often leave early in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So don't show up 4 o'clock and ask for the butcher.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been known to show up around lunchtime with a slab of ribs and give it to the butcher team. And
Make a friend.
lot of grocery stores have a picnic table out back where they go out for lunch, and they remember that. A lot of meat is prepackaged, wrapped in cryovac, which is nice because it keeps oxygen out.
Mm-hmm.
Oxygen in meat, oxygen increases the rapidity of spoilage. Some of it comes in frozen, some of it comes in fresh, some of it is butchered in the back room. It really varies, and it depends on and there are still left a few independent butchers that have
Yeah.
just a butchery store. A lot of young people have sort of opened up boutique butcher shops. The food's expensive, but
Yep.
they'll custom cut anything, a lot of fresh stuff. But I got to tell you, people, don't be afraid of frozen. I was just talking about fish with somebody. Um, a lot of the better fisheries now freeze the fish on board ship,
Right. Yeah. They flash freeze them. I have
flash
gone.
freeze, and if you do it at a very cold temperature, very fast, it really preserves the freshness. I would rather have a flash frozen fish or a flash frozen turkey.
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving's coming up,
Yep. Yep.
than one that has been so-called fresh. And they slaughter the turkey and then they ship it unfrozen to the grocery. Now it's got to go, 2 or 3 days in shipping, and then it sits on the loading dock for an hour or two while it comes in and is processed and inventoried. Then it goes into a refrigerator counter, and it can sit there for 3 or 4 days. So you end up with a fresh turkey that's now a week or two old.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of turkey places will flash freeze them, and we've used the word flash, and that's important because if you take a say you go out and you buy some meat
Hmm.
and you throw it in your freezer. That freezer isn't very, very cold. It's usually, 29, 30 degrees.
Right, right.
It'll freeze it, and you're sitting on top of other frozen goods. These flash freezers, they're much colder, and they sit on a wire shelf so the air can circulate all around them. They freeze very quickly, and when when you open a bag that has frozen meat, there's often liquid in there.
Yeah.
That liquid is water with a pink protein in there called myoglobin, and so
Hmm.
it's a kind of a pink liquid. Um, that pink liquid comes from, if it's slow frozen, the muscle fibers are punctured by the ice crystals that form. The ice crystal can be very sharp,
Hmm.
and they puncture the muscle fibers. But if you flash freeze, the ice crystals are really small and they don't puncture the muscle fibers. So that's really an important thing to look for.
Nowadays, you can go into some of the higher end restaurants, especially if you're traveling to, let's say, Las Vegas or somewhere, and they have this case of dry aged meat. And it seems like it almost, as you're looking at it, it looks like it's spoiled meat. It has
Yeah.
mold or something outside. How is that healthy? And then how do they actually make that into something that is actually a premium product as opposed to a product that you're thinking, wow, should I even be eating that?
Yeah, yeah. Dry aging is a process where, let's focus on steaks because that's what's most
Yeah.
often dry aged. And usually it's dry aged in a large muscle primal, like the prime rib,
Hmm.
7 bones. It can, weigh 18, 20 pounds sometimes. And it has to be kept at a very cool temperature. The humidity needs to be controlled. There needs to be airflow. And what happens is there's enzymes within the meat that tenderize the meat. So as it ages, those enzymes really go to work and they can really tenderize the meat.
Mm.
But also in the airflow, moisture evaporates. So you're concentrating the flavor. So a dry aged piece of meat will often have a really concentrated flavor, and it will be exceptionally tender. But in the process, mold often grows on the outside,
Got it.
and they will trim off all that mold.
So,
You won't eat it.
uh, consumers' fascination recently in the last decade with Wagyu beef, priced extremely high. Thoughts about that?
Yeah, actually, last night I had some Wagyu beef. I'm not a huge fan.
I'm not either.
Wagyu is a breed of cattle. Um, Everybody here has heard of Kobe beef.
Hmm.
It's a very specialized type of beef out of Kobe Prefecture in Japan, and the meat is very heavily marbled. Remember, we talked about marbling. Marbling is the layers of fat that run in between the muscle fibers, and if you look at it, it looks like a doily. It's got a lot of white shreds of meat, of
Hmm.
fat in between the muscle fibers, and it contributes a lot of flavor, makes it very tender and rich. Kobe beef, you won't find it in stores in this country. I think there's maybe a dozen restaurants that sell it. But that breed of cattle has been crossbred and is available in the United States. It's often crossbred with Black Angus. And you can find this Wagyu beef, which has Japanese ancestry. And you might find it at high-end groceries. It's available on the internet, mail
Hmm.
order. I buy it from a company called Allen Brothers, and it's really tender, really juicy. It can be too rich,
Yeah.
and I still generally prefer USDA Prime, although for many years I was along with all beef lovers. If you ask a true beef lover what's the best cut of beef or what's their favorite, they all say ribeye, and I was among them. But one day, for the fun of it, I bought some flank steak, Wagyu flank steak.
Uh-huh.
Flank steak was something my dad used to cook, and
Right.
just for the fun of it, I bought some flank steak, but I bought the Wagyu. And flank steak is a very rich flavored cut. It comes down from around the belly and the diaphragm area, and but it can be very tough.
Yeah.
Well, the Wagyu flank steak is really tender. And if you ask me now what my favorite cut of beef is, my answer is Wagyu flank steak. And
I
if you
was gonna
haven't tried it,
was gonna ask you
you
that.
need to. It's expensive, but it's awesome.
All right, so give me, you don't have to name any restaurant names, but give me the ideal menu that you would like to have if you're going to sit down for a nice meat dinner. What are you ordering, and what are you having as the accoutrement along with it? Give me your ideal dinner.
Well, if I'm an omnivore, dude, I mean, we just came. I live in the Chicago area. My wife is a master gardener.
Hmm.
She actually has a certificate from University of Illinois, Master Gardener. Um, Come August, we eat an awful lot of vegetables around here. I love my eggplant parmesan and my zucchinis and tomatoes, and I was raised in Florida. I'm a fish lover.
Hmm.
Sable, which is also known as black cod, is just brilliant. It's just an amazing fish. If you've never had it, it's hard to find. It's a cold water fish from the deep waters off of Alaska. You've got to try sable. It's often smoked,
Hmm.
but if you can get a really great fillet and just salt, maybe a little tarragon, grill it off, it's unbelievable. Now, my new book, The Meathead Method. Um, Perhaps you've heard of a restaurant group known as Nobu.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, they're a very famous restaurant in Vegas. Out, they have other restaurants in New York and Chicago and elsewhere. He does black cod, which is another name for sable,
Uh-huh.
with a miso sauce, and I've replicated that recipe in the book, and it's just effing amazing.
Unbelievable. I love talking food with Meathead. This is a great conversation, and we're going to continue on here. So what's on tap for tonight or tomorrow night? When's the next time that you're on the money for having to make the meal?
Well, last night I grilled up some Wagyu flank steak, which was just brilliant. I don't do that very often because it's expensive, but my wife is a beef lover also. Master gardener that she is, she loves her beef.
Yep.
Um, and uh, Tonight I was lucky. I did a book signing at a barbecue supply store, and he also sold meat, which
Yeah.
I've not often seen a barbecue store that sells meat. And he had sausages from Tim McKeska.
Okay.
McKeska is what was a barbecue restaurant in Taylor, California, which is like one of the great barbecue towns in California.
Hmm.
Not California, Texas.
Right,
Texas,
right.
Taylor, Texas. And Tim, I went down there with touring barbecue joints with a friend who owns a barbecue joint here in Chicago, and he wanted to carry a really great sausage, and he tried to make up his own recipes, couldn't find one that really worked. So we were tasting sausages, and McKeska's blew us away, and he started bringing it in. Well, this barbecue store had some McKeska's sausage, so I bought a bunch of it.
Oh,
And so
awesome.
tonight, I haven't had it in years. I'd had it in Texas. I bought some, and so tonight we're just going to make sausage on a bun. McKeska's sausage. It's a blend of pork and beef, and his secret seasonings, and I'm really psyched for that.
That is awesome. That sounds like a very good meal. So tell me a little bit more about your book. So the Meathead Method came out. When did that come out?
Came out in May.
Okay, so May of
It's
2025, if you're listening
mhm.
to this down the road. It came out in May. And what was the hope when the book came out? What was your goal for writing the book?
Well, there's two books, and you can see them over my shoulder here. The first book, Meathead: The Science of Great Barbecue and Grilling. That's the one that made the New York Times bestseller list. That Southern Living magazine called it one of the 100 best cookbooks in the world, and that included Julia Child and Jacques Pepin and all those big shots. And it has sold 250,000 copies.
Wow.
Most cookbooks are doing great if they do 10 to 20,000. 250,000 is extraordinary for a cookbook,
Congratulations. That's
and I'm
awesome.
very happy with it. And it's divided in half. The first half is the science of barbecue and grilling. I want people to understand. It's the old theory about teach a person to fish or give
Right,
a person to
right,
fish.
right.
Um, I explain what is heat, what is smoke, what is protein, what is fat, what are carbohydrates, what
Hmm.
happens when heat hits meat. What is the process? What is the difference between infrared energy and conduction energy and convection energy? Because you've got all three on the grill.
Right.
And if you know where they are and how to use them, then you can become a better cook. And so we talk about thermometers and we talk about different types of grills and smokers. And so there's a lot of geeky stuff in there, but it's not too far off the
Right.
deep end. It's not a science class per se, but it really informs you about what's going on and how to manage things and how to control things. People tell me that they slap their forehead black and blue at while reading it. It's
Well, a
just
lot of pictures in there too. I was watching, looking at the diagrams, makes it really easy to be able to determine what is what. And the side, don't feel nice guy community. That's the boring side of cooking. It
oh
actually is
no
very
no no.
interesting to learn this stuff that Meathead's got in the book.
Well, none of that, but I did all the photography. I did my master's in photography. And the new book, The Meathead Method. Now, okay, the first book divided in half. The first half is textbook, second half is recipes.
Right.
And the recipes demonstrate the science that we talk about in the first half. Well, the second half, the second book, The Meathead Method, is more about methodology, more
Hmm.
about technique, more about things that you can do on the grill. For example, you like fried chicken?
Yeah.
Yeah, who
I was
doesn't?
I was looking at your Dutch oven method for frying chicken on the grill.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh man.
Because you love fried chicken, but you don't cook it at home.
It's too messy, too
It's
smelly,
a
and it
mess. It
right,
just
it sets
splatters
off
all
every
over the
smoke
stovetop and the
alarm.
counter, and it
Right, right.
sets off the smoke alarm.
Yep.
So you get yourself a Dutch oven and you pour about 2 inches of oil on it. You take it out back to your grill. It's a little easier if you have a gas grill, but you can do it on a charcoal grill.
Yeah, yeah.
And you turn the burner underneath the Dutch oven on high. And you bring the temp up to 350, 375, and then you back down on the heat until you can stabilize it in that range.
Right.
350, 375 is the magic number for deep frying.
Yeah.
And you leave the other side of the grill off. No burners on. So just one burner is all you
Right.
need.
Right.
And now you take your chicken and you roll it around in flour, and that's all you need to do. But if you want to then dunk it in egg or milk or something,
Right.
there's a billion ways
Right.
to
Right.
prep the
Right.
chicken.
Right.
Just flour is all you need, though. I mean, just roll around in flour it comes out wonderful, and then you throw it in the hot oil, and after it turns golden, you take it out and put it down on the other side of the grill where there's no direct heat. But when you
Hmm.
close the lid, it stays warm
Right.
and it
Right.
drips. And who cares if it smokes? Who cares if it spatters?
I saw that
You're,
you revolutionized my ideas on how to actually make fried chicken at my house.
oh, and you can do fried chicken any day of the week now.
Yeah.
And it's not going to set the grill on fire. You're not going to knock over a 10-pound Dutch oven.
Right.
And
Right.
even if, for God's sake, you did, you'll lose a $500 grill. You do it inside, you knock it over, you're going to lose a $500,000 house. So
Yeah.
now here's that. So that's one of the methods that we
Right.
talk about in the
Right.
book. Fried chicken is now barbecue.
Yeah.
Um, you like Chinese food?
Yeah. Of course.
Of course you do. Everybody does, and you probably make it at home. Now, unlike fried chicken, you make Chinese food every now and then on
Right.
the stovetop, right?
Right. Right. Of
And it's
course.
good. I mean, you get all the right flavors. You get the
Yeah.
sesame oil and the hoisin sauce, and you
Yeah.
and you get everything prepped in advance and all ready to go, and you can stir fry, and it's really tasty. But it's never quite as good as the neighborhood Chinese joint, is it?
Agreed. Why is that?
Because they cook over a volcano. The
Okay.
burners in a Chinese restaurant are massive and
Yeah.
incredible intensive heat. When you stir fry at home, you throw the chunks of meat into your pan and all the juices come out and you see them bubbling away in there, you're braising, you're not frying.
Hmm.
But in a Chinese restaurant, the burners are so hot when you throw the meat into the oil, they fry.
Yeah.
And that's the big difference. So here's what you do. The best way to start a charcoal fire is with a gadget they call a charcoal chimney.
Yeah. Of
And a
course.
charcoal chimney looks like a big coffee can.
Yeah, it's a canister.
And it's a canister, and you dump the charcoal in, and you put some newspaper in the bottom. You light the newspaper, and it lights the charcoal on fire.
Right.
And then you dump it in your grill. Well, that's the best way to start. You don't want to use the accelerants. You don't want to use kerosene or mineral spirits or any of that stuff that they sell you to start the fire. That just smells it up and gets into the food. But charcoal chimney is great. And I was starting a charcoal fire one day, and it was around dusk, and I was going to do some steaks. And I turned around, I was doing some fiddling around on something, turned back and looked at that charcoal chimney. And there was a blue flame coming out of the top of the thing. It looked like an F-35. And the light bulb went off, and I ran inside and got my wok. I chopped up the steak and a bunch of veggies. My wife jumped in, and then we tossed it off. I had the best Chinese food of my life. Or
So
best
you
Chinese food.
you cooked it right on top of the
I
chimney.
put the wok on top of the charcoal chimney. It's 1,000 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the volcano. Now, there's a little trick that we talk about. The book's full of all kinds of tricks. A wok sitting on top of a charcoal chimney, there's combustion gases that are created by the charcoal, and they're good. They create flavor, but they can also extinguish the charcoal. They can choke the charcoal out. So you got to drill a couple of holes in the charcoal chimney to
Oh,
let the
yes.
combustion gases out.
Okay.
So that's the trick is it doesn't affect the charcoal chimney. You can use it for anything you want, but just a few holes in the top of the charcoal chimney to let the combustion gases out and let oxygen in. And then you can put the wok on top, and you don't have to worry about extinguishing your charcoal.
Well, just a couple of tricks that he has that Meathead has given to you today. The book is called The Meathead Method. It's the only book on outdoor cookery you will ever need, according to Alton Brown. So make sure that you get a copy of that. I'll make sure I put a link in the show notes for that as well. I could talk food, meat, barbecue, grilling all day.
You
with
kicking me
you.
out?
Well, we don't have to end, but my community is going to tell me I want him to come back. So I'm going to invite you. Can we get you?
Okay.
Can we get you back after we've sold a few hundred copies of your book? Can we get you back?
Anytime. It's fun, and there's so much more to talk about, both in the science and in the methods and the business side. I mean, the business model is really interesting, and we've learned an awful lot about how to run a membership portion of a website and make it work.
That's excellent.
And here's a teaser on that. Any model that is a subscription or a membership model, you don't make a lot of money on the first year because you spend money to attract new business and you give away things and everything. But you make money on the renewals.
Okay.
And that's a truism, whether it's a magazine, a newspaper, or a website. We have, if you have a subscription or a membership model, and if you do 50% renewal, you're doing okay. 60% is very good.
Yeah.
70% is excellent. 80% is unheard of. 88%, which is what we have, is Meathead, you're lying.
No, I believe you. I
But
believe
I'm
you.
not lying. We have an 88% renewal rate.
Well,
And
maybe
that's just unheard of.
maybe that's something you need to package up and sell to the business community is how to create a membership site that will get you 88%
And
renewals.
anybody
like we do.
wants to talk to us, I'm sure the web manager, the IT guy that built it for us with my specs and input, I'm sure he could clone it for somebody who needed it.
Amazing, amazing. Meathead, you have been a pleasure. You have been true to your true to your reputation of being a super nice guy. And Phil Fernaro was right. You are a great guy to have as a guest because you have endless stories, and we will get you back to share more. Thank you for being on the show today.
It's been an honor. It's fun talking to a guy who knows something about food.
I love food. Even at only 185 pounds or 180 pounds and 6'4", I still eat a lot. So I gotta tell you that. Hey, Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice. Again, special thanks to Meathead. All of his information, including access to his books and his membership website, will be right there in the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and grill us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. Thanks for listening. Bartender, Doug here's going to have a Cosmo, and Strickland is going to have a Fireball on the rocks. Not the little glass. Yeah, the big one, the 24-ouncer. Oh, and they'd both like a little umbrella. Just give me the bottle and charge them as much as you can.